This was the only time I ever encountered someone who may have been a killer. His name was Neil. I met him on the bus in a town where I had just moved. We struck up a casual exchange which lasted until we got off at the same major downtown stop. He was charismatic and handsome, but there was a strange fixity to his gaze that I found unsettling. It was as if he'd never learned to blink. He walked me from errand to errand, continuing our conversation. He seemed interested that I was new in town and hadn't made any acquaintances yet. The place where I was staying was nearby, so he gallantly walked me there, then bluntly asked to be invited inside. I can't do that. I don't really know you, I said. Of course you do. We just had this great conversation, he replied. Within a very short time, Neil hatched a grand plan for us. Since we were both artists, we would collaborate together on a project. In his mind, I had very little say in this joint endeavor. He insisted that I meet him for a brainstorming session. Preferring someplace public and open, I suggested an afternoon meeting at a local coffee shop. No, Neil said. The meeting had to take place at the home of a friend, some guy I never met, but who, Neil assured me, couldn't wait to meet me. This friend lived quite far away, but he had a car. He and Neil would come for me tonight. It had to be tonight, around 11:30 p.m., which I thought was very, very odd, as we wouldn't reach our destination for at least 90 minutes after that, and I had to be at work the next morning at 8 a.m. Maybe it was the lateness of the hour. Maybe it was the distance Neil insisted we travel. Maybe it was his reluctance to pinpoint the exact destination or to tell me his friend's name, even though I asked repeatedly. Maybe it was because his plan explicitly involved picking me up but not bringing me back. I remember feeling a sudden vicious chill of warning, danger, realization, as if I was looking at a diagram. I understood that Neil and his friend meant to do something bad to me. They planned to take me in a car to a place far away from anyone who could help me, and then they would hurt me. This explained why my newness and friendliness pleased Neil so much. Who would ask where I'd gone? I did not think twice. I did not say why. I simply said no. But you have to. You have to, Neil kept repeating, first in a child's whine, then in a commanding alpha male bellow. All his fury struck me as him empty at the center, a theatrical outburst designed to shame me into compliance. I let him shout until he shouted himself out, and then I told him that whatever he wanted, he would not get it from me, now or ever. Leave me the hell alone, I said as forcefully as I could. It must have worked, because he did. Even though 20 years have passed, whenever I think about him, I still feel as though I'd picked up a rock and seen something truly horrible squirming beneath it. For reference, this story took place around 6 years ago. At the time, I was an 18-year-old girl with a lot of problems at home. I had been dating my boyfriend for around 2 years by this point. He was Austrian and I was American. Due to our long distance relationship, we decided that once I turned 18, we would start our gap year of traveling and working weird jobs around the world. Since I was in a super toxic environment, I decided to go to Europe for an indefinite amount of time. I got a job as an au pair in Rome, and my boyfriend and I eventually moved there to live for 2 months. This story takes place in Rome. Shortly after settling into my new family's home, I left one night to meet up with my boyfriend. Since I had just arrived, my mind wasn't on my cell phone and the adjustments I would have to make to it, or even the possibility of having to buy a new one. So I just left it up to chance until I collected my first check. Bad decision. The location that we were meeting at was about a 25-minute walk away from where I was living. And since the public transportation was not reliable, I decided I could walk the whole way with a downloaded map of Rome. I personally wanted to see Rome at night anyway, and how it lights up with wonder like in the movies, only to find that the streets become literally abandoned. Coming from New York, a city that never sleeps, I was not used to a major city actually becoming quiet and resting for the night. I was starting to get a little sketched out after 10 minutes or so walking through empty old streets. Following the map, I was led to a strange shaped pyramid building, and then walking behind it, I was slowly gaining the sense that I was no longer walking alone. I started to speed walk back to the main sidewalk of the street I was on, to not be behind a dark building with no lights. When I reached the sidewalk, I had that terrible feeling that comes over you when you know you're in actual danger. I turned around to see a 50-something-year-old man walking about 20 feet behind me. I quickly started to pick up my pace away from there, and when I turned around again, he had already cut the distance in half and was sprinting towards me. The look on his face was pure rage and pure anger. At this point, I started booking it and running as fast as I could. Hearing the fast footsteps behind me is still a haunting feeling I have to this day. I ran towards a surprisingly busy street and ran across the other side. Out of breath and crying, I stood there watching the man across the street as he tried to cross himself, but fortunately for me, the light turned green and the cars were flowing and he couldn't. He began to scream at me, just having an utter meltdown. He was so outraged. I fled at this point and ran as fast as I could to a bridge nearby, where thankfully my boyfriend was at. Since I took so long to get to the meeting point, he began to ride his bike to come and get me. I hopped on the bike seat while he stood up and pedaled, and we got out of there as fast as we could. I don't know what this man's intentions were, and I'm glad I never found out. So to every person out there, avoid all the faults and mistakes I did. Never leave without a charged working phone. Try to avoid dark, unpopular areas, and the moment you feel like something isn't right, it probably isn't. So about 4 months back, I received a message from a guy who was interested in being roommates. He said his name was Mike and he seemed super nice. We talked for about an hour and I told him that I would let him know the situation once things were ready to go. After some time, I did inform him I was no longer interested and found another place where a roommate was not needed. He responded that he would like to be friends still, and that's when I had a strange gut feeling. A very bad gut feeling about this guy. I told him that I apologized if I gave the wrong signal, but I wasn't interested at all in where he was trying to take this. Period. I thought he got the message. But after we hung up, something just didn't feel right. He texted me a week later asking how I was doing. I never responded. Deleted his number and forgot about the whole thing, to be honest with you. Until today, months later, I get a text from who I thought was a coworker. This friend had just changed her phone number. The text asked how I was doing, and I said I was doing good. They then asked if I wanted to hang out and meet up, so I said sure. Where? I genuinely thought it was my friend. Their phone numbers are off at the end by 1 digit. Suddenly, on my way there, I realized that I had no idea who this person was. A fact that should have hit me earlier, but for some reason didn't. I called the number to see if it was my coworker, and my heart dropped when I recognized this dude's voice. I apologized and told him I actually thought he was someone else when I agreed to meet, and he lost his shit and freaked out on me, extremely angry. I apologized again and told him to please never contact me from here on out, as I was not interested and would not be meeting up with him. He was pissed. I just wished him a good day and then hung up. Now, some would debate on whether or not I was in the right because he was just trying to be friends. Let me make this super clear. I repeatedly told this man over 3 times that I was not interested in being friends or being any type of contact at all with him. I informed him over the phone and over text numerous times, and he still continued. Then a month later, he asks if we can meet and gets angry when I'm extremely uncomfortable about this. No is fucking no. That's it. Secondly, if I have a bad gut feeling about somebody, that's a done deal, period. Regardless of how other people interpret the situation, I trust myself more at the end of the day and have to look out for me over some stalker's hurt feelings. So, creepy guy, that's not me.